Welcome to the Sports Outlet with Kei-Touch. Joining me, Coach Kitty Gray.
Hey, hey.
Oh my goodness. Today on the show, we're honored to welcome a true trailblazer, leader, and man of service. Our guest made history as the first Black quarterback at the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point, a role that represents leadership, resilience, and the responsibility of guiding others under pressure.
Mhm.
Originally from Beaumont, Texas, his
Right.
journey began with a commitment to excellence on the field, but his life's work has been defined by something even greater: service. From the United States Army to dedicating his career to leadership and community impact, he has continued to live out the values of discipline, integrity, and most importantly, giving back. His story is not just about breaking barriers in sports, it's about perseverance and using your platform to uplift others. I am so excited to welcome a true pioneer and servant leader, Dr. Jerryl Bennett.
Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It's a pleasure being here. I'm humbled and deeply appreciative.
Yes, sir. So tell us a little bit about your journey to West Point and also the path that led you there and wanting to serve your country.
Uh, it was everything that happened in my life. It was certainly God inspired, and I had a family that prayed heavily. So we didn't know anything about West Point when I was coming up. I grew up in in the projects, and we did get a chance to move on the other side of the railroad tracks into first time home ownership. Affordable housing, and it was there that I continued to play. Coming up in in the hood, if you will. I just remember, being really impressed when I would see somebody, coming into the community with a stack of books in their arm, and I would pause while I'm spinning my tops and shooting my marbles, and winning the marbles, and splitting other people's tops. I would stop and I would pause and I would wonder. Then I would go back, to plan. But it's that wonderment, that drove me because I didn't know how to approach anybody to say what is this and what are you doing? But it was that competitiveness, and being raised in the church, that kept me out of trouble. But the competitiveness led into me studying well and loving math, and wanting to make all A's. I loved it when you would get the awards and the
Yeah.
stipends, for that, and the cereal and the money that I would get, so I can go buy me some boxes of cereal, honeycombs back then, the little bitty boxes, y'all. So
I know what they are.
yeah,
I know.
so that drove me, and and just living out, my life. I doing that. There was a time when I remember that I was at a halftime show, Charlton Pilot and Hebert, and I was throwing the football, on the field as a kid would do. I was just throwing because I was having fun with my friends, and on the 50-yard line, going to the end zone in the eighth grade. Nothing to me. I was just doing what I do. And then next thing you know, going to the ninth grade, and I went straight to the varsity. So you don't come here, the JV come. And in Texas, that's a big deal.
Uh,
So I realized that I had something that was special when University of Texas was recruiting me. I just knew I was on my way. I'm Jerryl Bennett,
Mhm.
great. Never did any of these things, but people put the folk in front of me. But I tore my cartilage in the middle of my senior year,
Mhm.
and I limped through the last few games.
Wow.
And now University of Texas didn't really care to give me a football scholarship, but they said that you can have an academic scholarship. And I said, but I'm Jerryl Bennett. You know, I need that big scholarship because that's the only thing I could think of and had geared myself toward. So when all of the other schools started passing me by and I wasn't getting any hits, and it was University of Rice, I
Wow.
I learned that they had 11 quarterbacks. I said, no, you only need one. I'm not going there. So I was getting ready to go to Southern University. It was a great school. I didn't understand, HBCU versus non-HBCU. But while I was getting ready and gearing my mind to go to, the smaller market, West Point came and found me and knocked at my door. They knocked at my door. First question out of their mouth is, "Do you want to play football at West Point?" And I said, "You play on TV?" So he laughed at me. And then when he laughed and he said, "Yeah, we're the biggest game in the world." I then remembered that Roger Staubach went to the Naval Academy. He was my idol, Dallas Cowboys.
That's right.
So I said, well, okay, let me think about this. I'm in. And I thought that I was getting ready to go to the academy, but this was April of my senior year. And they said, no, you can't come because it's too late to get in. But we can give you a place to go where you can keep your eligibility. That was Choate Rosemary Hall, the feeder school to Yale University. When I went to that school, I was really surprised. It was like heaven on earth. It was nirvana. And sitting here saying, how come I never knew about all of this? And that's when I said, now I've got to, commit to tell it over the mountain. This is just too good to be true. I'm going to make sure all of my brothers and sisters know about this. By the time I lit the field up and we won, we weren't undefeated. We lost only one game. With that, everybody came after me because I had rehabbed really well in Texas and went to Choate Rosemary Hall and, impressed enough people where the majority of the Ivy Leagues, started offering me scholarships. Then the Naval Academy came, the University of South Carolina, University of California at Berkeley, all of those. And I was really happy and I said, this is great. But I'm going to West Point because if it wasn't for them, then I would not have had this experience. Did everybody say, you don't have to do that? And I couldn't understand. What? I don't? I gave them my word that I would. So I ended up going to West Point with the intent that I was going to say thank you for the 6 weeks, and then I was going to go and continue to keep my pro aspirations alive. And they, put me in touch with the TAC and major. That was a big deal, one-on-one. Why don't you just stay for 1 year? You're not going to lose any of your eligibility. I stayed the first year. And I did, fairly well. Started a few games as a quarterback as a freshman at West Point. And then, at the end of the first year, they said, they put me in the house with the superintendent. I went into his house, dinner, and that was, pretty impressive too. Really fine, food and house, and everything is just immaculate. Reminded me of all of the fine furniture my grandmother, had, as she was made, and she got a lot of hand-me-downs, from people who had a lot of things, but it was all beautiful and it was really immaculate in this nice historic house. And he said, why don't you stay 2 years? You don't have any obligation after 2 years. I say, that makes sense. I'll give you another year. Then in that second year, the Secretary of the Army comes and talks to me.
Wow.
And it was during the time we were getting ready for the Army-Navy game. And, again, those impressions, did something to you. So when it came time between the second and the third year, I said, this ring is going, I imagined, well, no, I had the ring. It's going to help me with my life's purpose. And life's purpose was to serve and with excellence. And, so with duty on the country and thou shalt not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do, and a lifetime of selfless service, those were all biblical to me. So I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm never going to regret making this decision to keep moving forward at West Point, give my life, to the service. And I did that. What I realized about me in retrospect is that it was harder for me to quit than it was for me to get in.
Mm.
A lot of people, didn't, think that I had it easy because I was a jock, but you don't get to West Point just being a jock. Every
No.
athlete is a cadet at West Point, and every cadet is an athlete at West Point.
Mhm.
And I just happened to be able to have been able to earn my way on that field. But I told you about those 11 quarterbacks at Rice. When it came time to break out at West Point, and what position y'all want to play? I want to play quarterback. 11 people showed up in line. They were
Wow.
bigger than me. They were just awesome. And I
Yeah.
said, oh no, I've been duped.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay,
It
Jerryl,
doesn't work like that. Yeah.
just have fun. And I had fun, and my talents came through. I relaxed, and next thing you know, I earned the starting position. In the
Yeah.
freshman year, and then in the sophomore year, and so that was the history of me going to West Point, and I just those were just some wonderful days. The whole experience, and as I say to you, I don't regret it, no matter how you were treated, but it gave me the idea of how resilient I am because I grew up in Texas and racism
Yes.
on both sides of me when I moved into the other side of the railroad tracks. So
Oh,
nobody could, daunt me.
so, Dr. Bennett, thank you for that. I just have to say, being that we are both from Texas, I'm down the street from Houston, and you were mentioning all those schools, and I just got excited because I'm a HBCU marching band fan. So when you were saying Southern University, the ones who
Mhm.
started it all, I was so
Yeah.
excited about that. But also, I want you to give us some perspective. What year did you start? What year were you at West Point and you were the first Black starting quarterback? Yes.
Mhm. That's
So
right.
78, I entered. So I,
Mhm.
Wow.
able to start 78 and then 79 and then 80 and then
Mhm.
81. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to, play on the field, that and good enough, happy enough, to know that I did enough that
Right.
I haven't disappeared from the record books.
Right.
Yes. And that's the important part. I wanted to just say that the year 78.
Mhm.
So we're talking about 47, 48 years ago that you
Mhm.
became the first. And I want people to understand it was not that long ago.
Not that
So
long
many
ago.
of these opportunities that we have, it wasn't that long ago. And I know, Dr. Bennett, you remember, I'm sure you were an Oilers fan when we had Warren Moon as the Black quarterback. That was not normal. He
That's
wasn't
right.
the first, but
No.
that was very unique. Very unique.
Mhm.
Yes, he was, and I remember looking at him, and then it was a novelty to see James Harris, and also,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, those were novel days, and one of the rhetorics used at West Point was you need to stay here because you won't make it in the NFL. Well,
Mhm.
looking at people now, and if you had the
Mhm.
right circumstances and tutelage and environment, then that wouldn't have been the case. It could have been something different, even in the pro aspirations. But you know, um, I learned that it's not about what you know; it's to who you know. And no matter how
Mhm.
staunch the system at West Point was, again, Roger Staubach was able to go from the Naval Academy into the pros. So anything is possible, and it's all about the attitude that you have, and just one more break away from achieving your dreams. Now, my dream again was to do that, but graduating from West Point, I didn't realize, going through it, not until I made that decision between year 2 and 3, that the history of the place was just incredible, and I wanted
Mhm.
to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of that long gray line where
Mhm.
today we have over 55,000 people, and in my phone I can pick up the phone and connect with any of them. That's how true that gray line is for us.
Well,
Hold on real quick, Coach. For those who want to follow us, okay, you can follow Dr. Jerryl Bennett at JB911682 on the gram. You can follow the Coach Kenny Gray, Gray spelled with the A on IG, and me
right.
at DJ Kei-Touch. Coach.
Yeah, uniform to uniform, right? When you're in the uniform of a football player and you're the quarterback, the head coach tend to hang out with you a lot more than what you think because it's his system. And to find someone who can implement my system, or he's going to be hanging with me. And there's only two people, like I was telling Kei-Touch earlier, that I hang out with. That's the middle linebacker and my quarterback, because one runs my defense, one runs the offense. So now that you're a quarterback, you can talk. We're going to talk head coach to quarterback here, right? Now, in order for you to play for me, you have to be, first off, know the system, implement the system, and have to be accurate. So as the other uniform, can you shoot? Can you shoot straight? Because as a quarterback, you better be dead ass accurate throwing that football.
You got it, Coach.
So how accurate were you with the gun, and how accurate were you with that gun with the arm?
Hold on, it's a rifle. It's a rifle.
Okay.
It's a weapon.
I'm not in the military. It's a gun to me.
Yeah, I was the expert shooter. I grew up in Texas.
Cool.
Yes,
that part.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
And they called me the Beaumont Bomber. At West Point.
What I'm talking about.
Right.
What I'm talking
but
about.
The reason all of that happened, again, I'm thinking about how I grew up. Then when we moved to the other side of the railroad tracks, there was a big backyard, and I'm reading about how Roger trained. I would put that tire on the rope, and I would swing that rope from side to side, and I would hit and make sure that I did not stop until I was able to go through when it was on this right side, and the center side, when it was on the left side. And just again going and being rambunctious and playing, walking down the street with. I remember there was a time when a stranger, comes up to me. Do you know what to do with that football? He taught me how to go to my left and throw back. That was in turning that shoulder. It was on the streets that I learned some of the techniques.
That's right. That's
right. Wyndham after it, and he said, "Great job." Then you then practice that more, and you run at full speed, to the left and throwing accurately, and that accuracy part, it's that middle finger. I mean,
that's right.
That the index finger.
That's right.
I would always, when I'm practicing, I'll look at your nose, and I'm gonna hit your nose. I'm gonna hit your sternum. I'm gonna hit you on the right shoulder. Hit you in the belly button and on the left shoulder. That's the way I was always intentional. So I worked enough, to make sure that people could rely, on where the ball should be and where it did end up.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's what I'm talking about.
That question, look, I've never had a coach ask me and talk to me about those things, but you're right. And the one thing, Coach, I always thought that, man, I got so much talent that at least I thought I did.
Right.
That nobody can make the difference of whether I'm going to win or lose. But we had 3 coaches in 4 seasons, 3 coaches.
Right,
they do make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this: the strange thing about it, when I took over as a head coach, there were 3 coaches. There were 3 different philosophies, but the game doesn't change. But what changes is the individual. The individual has to come in and play the game according to how they see it. We can either adapt to that person or we teach that person. When you come in and you have those skills, we tend to adapt to that particular athlete. And that's when you get out of the way. When a good coach can get out of the way, like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, you got something there.
That's right.
And that's what a lot of coaches have a problem, Kei-Touch, is with their confidence as far as being a coach. Because they think what they say is all it needs to be said. It's not.
Yes.
These athletes have something to say. You need to listen to them.
Coach,
that's an example of a good leader.
That's an example of a good leader. Absolutely.
I just remember a time when we had Lou Saban. He came in.
Lou Saban. Yeah.
And I could be calling an audible based on what it is that I knew and was trained. Lou would be on the sideline cussing me out. That's not the one I want you to be in. So then it makes you double think, right?
Right.
So that's why I was saying that the coach can't make the difference, between the ultimate success and, but the talent is a talent, and then
Yes.
right place.
Yes.
Always says you get a good quarterback, you win, 2 or 3 or 4 games. You get a good quarterback and a running back, you win 4 or 5, games. You get a quarterback, a receiver, and a running back, you're going some places.
You're going somewhere. Yeah.
I have to interject real quick. I have to know this, being an Army veteran. Who won the game when you played the Navy?
Navy did. 3 coaches in 4 years. We tied them in my last year.
Okay.
See, not close. You should have had that one more year. One more year.
It wasn't called in the last, few seconds. I mean, I'm seeing it very clearly. And, it would have given my kicker, David, off an awesome leg. It would have given him 5 additional yards because he had a strong leg. The non-call, made it short.
Yeah, see, talking football is very simple. You're also military. That's a side that I don't know about. Someone tells me and told me many times that the mindset of a soldier and a football player is very similar. Well, how say you, sir?
Sir, thank you absolutely, for that. In the military, it's shoot, move, and communicate, and that's what we do in the game. It's about communicating, the huddle, breaking, running the play, and executing on everything that we ever practice on. In the military, it's the same thing. It's train, it's train, it's train. And then you go out in the field. You go out in the field and practice what you train. I remember being in Korea. In Korea, they had all that artillery aimed pointing at us, and I realized that if anything broke out, and I'm in artillery and I'm at the front edge of the battlefield in Korea in Camp Pelham, that was as forward as you could be. So you knew you were giving your life for your country, and I would write mom, letters on the tissues. I write when I'm in the field. I just wrote to them, let them know what I felt about it. But there was a sense of country when you're faced with that, because family and country.
So let me interject and just provide some substance to that. So when you're stationed in Korea, you're stationed in South Korea, and it's a single tour. You cannot bring your family. It's very rare occasions people are allowed to bring your family. And so what Dr. Bennett is talking about is being stationed close to the DMZ, and that's the border. And so you're always on high alert. I wasn't in Korea. I went to Germany, but I was very aware of the pressure that they faced and intensity and anxiety, because if something happened, it's on and popping.
And to the point, how is it so similar? Again, in football, it's about communication. When you're in the DMZ, like what Kei-Touch just mentioned, it was always, we practiced, but it was always the communication, the convoys and the deployment, the quick reaction force. We always had to stay in communication. The interesting thing that I enjoyed about the military, at 5 o'clock in the morning, we were testing communications. Of course, but also in the evening. 3 times a day, you had to check to see that you had lines of communication up and down the chain every day. And then if anything changed, we had things called operations order, quick orders, and it was about speaking.
It's audible.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
And you have to get these these instructions out within minutes, no more than 3 minutes, to talk about what is the situation, mission, how you're going to execute it, what's the priority of fires. That was always very important, and how you're going to support those things. So that it was the exact same thing in the military and on sports. That's the reason I'm always talking about that in life. Continue to communicate.
What was your area of concentration in the military?
I was field artillery, and then I, after field artillery, when I went to Fort Bragg, then I went into the 41 Alpha, the personnel side.
HR. That's what I did. But let's go back. Go ahead, Coach.
No, and I like I want to keep the military and the sports angle because I like what you just said. Now, the reconnaissance and me going out as a scouter to scout the team that we're going to play.
Right.
You're on the front line. You're going to come back and be fed what they saw, what to see, what they're seeing out there, so you can be abreast and updated on it. So when I watch film, how important and the war, I've always heard war college. I don't know anything about it, but when I think of war college, I'm thinking that you're sitting in there, you're watching film to look at the tendencies of the other team or what it takes to win the war or the game. So I like this angle because the scouting report is more important to me going into battle than it is playing the kids, because now I need to figure out who can do the job.
Mm-hmm.
If I have the personnel, but I don't have the right people to implement that, then I have an issue. So how important is the reconnaissance and the film watching and on the angle of football and military? How important is that to you on the front line and as a quarterback running the?
Kei-Touch, we talking about, Korea and, how, it's a demilitarized zone, but it's like you're in battle every day. And the thing that I really enjoyed about Korea is that we lived with each other, we ate with each other, we played with each other. We were always together, and always together, allows you to share insights and intel and some things that you just wouldn't get if you weren't always so in communication. One of the things I remember is that we could be in the field and things would come up missing even though you have a perimeter, you know and you're supposed to be awake all night long, but some things always seem to come up missing. So it's that's one piece of intelligence that we had to share until we got we would have checks, in the perimeter, out the perimeter, like I was telling you what we do in the daytime at 5 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. We would then start having constant checks and waking people up, just to make sure that we would not people wouldn't uh, pilfer or evade and egress into our area without us knowing. But they were pretty slick, and it was amazing how they were able to do that. But we had to learn some additional tactics. So it's always about that intelligence. We knew on the other side where the lines were, where all the artillery, were.
Mhm.
We knew the avenues of approach. But when all these plans come, great plans, once the first shot is fired, those things go to heck. It's
Go ahead,
how
yes.
you're able to communicate with each other, argue with each other, and
Yes.
then you get innovative as to
Mhm.
how you did. I will the Korean War. When you study the Korean War, and how they were surrounded, by the Chinese, when the Chinese started getting involved, you wondered how did anybody make it out? It
Mhm.
was because of what we're talking about, that communication. So some
Mhm.
learned that they got to go into the teeth,
Mhm.
go around, so that they can
Oh my
survive.
God.
That was
Oh
unique.
boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
So
is so
you couldn't have that strategy if we were not always communicating and scouting what they're doing to find the
Mhm.
weakness and
Mhm.
the opportunities.
Yes.
so
Yes.
I have to ask this. Playing quarterback at West Point means that you're not only leading a football team, you're prepping to lead soldiers. How did that experience shape your approach to leadership today,
Mhm.
past the military?
Oh, Kei-Touch, in the civilian sector, it was it was strange. Again, quarterback in military, the way we have to get things done. We got to again shoot, move, and communicate. Got a mission, and you communicate that mission. Had to learn how to tone things down, and
Mm,
to get more of that emotional intelligence, at bay, and help everybody realize that we weren't going to, life or death. We weren't going to expire, if we didn't get something done. But you always had to think about how to motivate people, to get things done until you find the team. And I found that I can work with any and everyone. Working with veterans has always been really a delight. When you get it's very different. But then there's some really sharp and bright, and people who are much smarter than me. You have to then learn how to get the most and help them understand that you're here to help. Them, and when things get haywire, then with the experience, then they start learning to trust you because they know that you're not going to bolt, and that's
Mhm.
um, you know
Mhm.
they can hang around. And I always say to you, I thrive in chaos. When hurricanes come, the place I believe you should be is the day after that hurricane is over. There.
Oh yeah, being from Texas, we're very familiar that Gulf region with those hurricanes and flood waters. I wasn't familiar with snow until I joined the Army, but that's one thing for sure.
But Kei-Touch, I want you that question you gave Dr. Bennett is this, and from a quarterback in leadership. Imagine we have practice every day, but now when the game starts, I send my team to the stands and sit. Can you imagine what's coming after these players? Because everybody has an opinion, has not been at practice. Right
Wow.
now, you have to now tell your players, don't listen to the noise. You know what we practice. You know what we need to do on this field. They'll never see the field. But when you get over here and you start bringing that noise to my field, I have a problem because they're not prepared the way you're prepared. And that, for me, on a coaching standpoint, because if I'm giving that to my quarterback and I tell my quarterback, you run the huddle, if anybody give you any, you know what, they got to deal with me, period. So it's like me going to my team and said, if anybody in that stands messing with you, you got to talk to me. That's how it is.
Yeah, that is so interesting. You're absolutely right. In the military, it's chain of command. Understand what the commander's intent is. As long as you know what the commander's intent,
Yes.
and we always leave with the mission and how we're going to execute on that mission, you're going to be okay. Practice, make sure you achieve the mission.
Yes.
And if you don't, then make sure that you can identify why not, and then correct for that. That's what the constant practice is that Kei-Touch talked about. Same with sports. They can be screaming at you. They can just line across. They don't want you to achieve anything, so they'll be saying, "Oh, things trying to get into your head." That's what the huddle is for, and stay focused. And that's what I've had to. That's why people, seem to gravitate when there's trouble because they know that going to be. Well, we had experience with level-headed.
That's right.
So as long as in the federal government, we know what the commander's intent is. You read the strategic plan, look at the mission. I always help everybody understand what is the mission.
Right.
Priorities to that mission. All you need to know. Stay there. You're going to be okay.
Absolutely.
And you and chaos will be the best of friends.
That's right.
That is just, I love this correlation, especially when we're talking about discipline, mental toughness. Because personally, when I joined the military and went through basic training at Fort Lost in the Woods, well, Leonardwood, Missouri, we call it Fort Lost in the Woods because it's in the middle of nowhere. I truly understood mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And for me personally, so much of what I learned in the military has transitioned and helped me and been beneficial for the rest of my life. So, Dr. Bennett, I salute you because I'm a Black woman that served in the Army, and you are a Black man that was an officer. I was a non-commissioned officer, the backbone of the Army, just throwing that in there. No, but I'm just on a serious tip. For you to have been a Black man, an officer, being the first Black quarterback, starting quarterback on top of that at West Point, I salute you. I salute you. I salute you. You are a hero. You are a hero.
Yep.
You are a hero. So it's an honor to have you here. It's an honor.
Black history. Black history.
Every day. every day. You were living history.
Yeah, and to that point, yes, it is a Black history, and then when I think though of West Point, I think of American history.
Absolutely.
Be able to
Yes,
be on
right.
both sides of that.
Right.
Now we're at the 250th, and West Point was the most strategic place, and
Mhm.
I'm proud to have been able to go through both aspects of life, but if it wasn't for that faith. It's the faith
Mm.
that got me through on
Mhm.
every one of those
Mhm.
aspects. I remember, throwing the ball 70 yards. I'm on my tail end because they, knock. But when the crowd cheers, something good
You've done
happened.
the job. That's right. That's right.
And then to get up and say,
Yeah.
thank you for allowing me to have the ability,
Yeah.
to take the people's minds off of whatever problems they had and to be able to witness the fun, that I'm able to have and to impart, into the crowd. It was a blessing to be able to play with the gifts that you
Yeah.
know, that were given to me. And one more thing, I would keep going back to childhood and all that. I learned all of that stuff, y'all, because I was a bad kid. I I grew up next to the railroad tracks, in the hood, as I said, and I would be getting rocks, and I'd be throwing get the rocks and throw at the wheels of the train.
Oh
Mhm.
goodness.
Get the rocks and then try to hit the caboose,
Mhm. Mhm.
all it was going, those uh, you know, eh, rocks don't hurt trains, but I just had to learn to do something, and I developed a skill that I just didn't know I was doing, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I stayed out of trouble with it, with that, but as long as you stay out of trouble and you explore, because that was innovation, um, so. The train didn't stop because they knew that I was not doing anything except for, and I wasn't going after the box cars. I wasn't going after the engine. I was going
Mhm.
after the tires.
Only God knew what he was going to do with you, throwing at them wheels. And look at you today, because the faith is not without God.
That's right.
When we talk about all this is God. At the end of the day, Kei-Touch,
Absolutely.
Mr. Bennett, Coach, it's God to allow us to be right here today talking about this history and your experiences, because we all grew up in the hood, but at the same time, it's how God picks you and leads you to some other place. So
That's right.
And uses you. And
uses you. Yeah.
Dr. Bennett, you spoke about the 250th anniversary, and just to let everyone know, and I'm very proud of this, the Army is older than this country. The
Right.
reason we call the president commander in chief is because of General George Washington. He was the general of the Army. So the Army, the United States Army, is older than the United States of America.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Mhm.
So I want to just talk about this. Looking at your journey from Beaumont, Texas to West Point, from military service to leadership in the community, what message do you hope young people take away about perseverance, purpose, and serving something bigger than themselves?
I want kids, to be curious, like I shared, I was curious, but I want that curiosity to be met, by those of us who know. And more, we need to make sure that they understand that they have choices, so, to stay resilient and make it, the harder right is much better than the easier wrong. So we really want kids to understand that, and then to be able to say, I'm going to choose that harder right. It may not be fun, but the reward is going to be certain and definite and sustainable. So when you learn that as a kid, then as an adult, you start then understanding what compliance is. When I
Mm.
was in real estate, I would always tell people, I know where the black is, I know where the white is. I operate in the gray. The gray is innovative.
Mm.
So when you stay there and understand what the rules are and what the limits are, and when I say push the innovation is about doing something that typical people would not understand. So when I was in real estate, I was one, if not, I was one of the first. I'm not going to say I was the first, but when they came out with the laptops and they came out with those portable printers and when they came out with those huge cell phones, I had it all. and I wouldn't stay in my office waiting for people to come. I would be at the corner, at McDonald's, at Burger King, and I would help people understand what their choices were while they had 15, 30 minutes. They, going to stop there. So I would meet them where they were. I'll
Yeah.
meet people where they are. And that's
Yeah.
what I say to you. Let's meet the kids and the families where they are, because we know that there are things. That's what service is. And, it's about feeding their sheep. But again, let thine will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's my call. And that's when I say a lifetime of selfless service is what we were all taught at West Point. All of those are highly consistent to what I knew before I knew West Point.
Wow.
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 That's absolutely incredible. Coach, you have anything else? He feels like he just covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we are who we are, right?
Yes.
And there's a thing about the spirit of a man. I look at things called a spirit animal sometimes. You say, well, what animal do you refer to? I like the wolf, the way the wolf leads. I like to lead from behind. When I study the wolf, that you want to keep an eye on everyone in front of you because he's okay. That's a good leader. What I'm hearing here is a good leader, a humble leader, knowing that we're going to be better if we find the time to find them where they are. Today is crucial to do exactly what he just said. Don't wait. Go where they are, because they are the ones who are looking for the hope. We know what that looks like. We've been through the hopelessness, and we realized it was faith that got us where we are. And right now, with the military and the uniform of a football, it may be in the closet, but it's not done, because we are the work of the field and in the uniform of the military. So, sir, hey,
what excites me now is that football, it has gone to a place where it's not so expensive to always have to play it. Football. I grew up, it was touch football. Now flag football is highly organized. Flag football is going to be, and then flag football is for women and for men.
That's right. That's right. Universal.
I am in hog heaven.
Yeah.
Opportunities to teach. I could use a lot of learning from Coach. Kei-Touch, your ability to help people communicate and come out of their shell, be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Let's learn, let's impart, and let's win. Because if it's going to get the Olympics, let's be the reason that we win the gold.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. And again, sir, I just commend you, thanking you for your service, thanking you for your leadership and being a part of history, an important part of history. And it's interesting because you always hear people saying, I want to be on the right side of history. You are on the right side of history. And coming from Texas, I truly understand, as everyone now knows, which they just learned in the past 6 years about that. We were the last state to be free. Juneteenth, we've been celebrating that forever, but it's just great to see how far you've come. And I know the competition was heavy in Texas playing football. It's always been extremely heavy in football. And for you to succeed the way you succeed and continue to take what you know and help others, because we're just scratching the surface. We're just talking about football and his military service right now. And we'll have him back on to go in a little bit deeper. But sir, I salute you. And it's truly been an honor and a pleasure. I will salute you.
That's right. That's right.
Back to you, ma'am.
Sergeant to sir.
That's right. Sergeants who always had so much more information. And if it wasn't for them, I certainly would never have made it through second lieutenant to first lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
And I have one disclaimer. Do not throw rocks at trains today. It's too many cameras out there today, young folks. I know he got the West Point throwing them rocks, but don't you do it.
No. Everything they can do is observe. And
that's right. That's right. Thank you.
But that's why I'm happy about the flag football. You don't have to throw rocks now. Flag football is available to everybody's household with just a simple little belt on your waist. So, this would save me, you all.
Yes, it's
Me
the
too.
sports outlet with Kei-Touch. Again, thank you for joining us today, Dr. Jerryl Bennett. And again, you can follow us on Instagram, me at DJ Kei-Touch. That's DJ Kei Touch. And Coach at the Coach Kenny Gray, Gray with an A. And we have Dr. Jerryl Bennett. You can follow him at JB911. 682 JB911 682. It's the sports outlet with Kei-Touch. Peace.
Thank you.